really quick follow up on this, and then sorry, Nolan. I'm just like the like part of the Tesla master plan was around like they needed to do a bunch of stuff to actually like fund making that happen. And obviously, the fundraising climate right now in 2025 very positive towards AI, very positive towards robotics. But do you have a sense of like um, over the last few years, like obviously that it's been like exponentially more interest, like lots more money flowing to this problem. But like, what were some of the early like points of conviction, like as you were actually putting this together, that like this was possible to actually go and build in that direction, relative to like again going and incrementally making your way there, doing something smaller, and then eventually getting to a humanoid.
Yeah. Okay. I have like somewhat of a like an interesting story. Um, Previously before founding Figure, I founded Archer Aviation in 2018. And, prior to that, I had an exit. I sold a company for a little over $100 million in the software space. So I had a little bit of money, started going and building like Archer, like with this conviction, like electric aircraft is both possible and like needed right now, and like a solvable problem. And the funding environment was just like non-existent for deep tech. Like there was just like, there was early investors were not funding like Tesla and Rivian and SpaceX, like those type of groups. Same for Archer. I put in like basically I basically went all in on like my entire like basically like liquid net worth into Archer, but it wasn't. But I still needed like a lot of capital just to pull it off. It wasn't like I didn't put enough. I didn't have enough like net worth to make it significant enough. And I remember how just difficult the climate was for that at that point. And man, had things like it's what has that been now? Like 7 years. Like man, the whole like climate towards like deep tech has really flipped. Last like there's like fully dedicated funds for this. Like people realize now that like probably some of these deep tech companies might be the biggest businesses in the world, or starting to become the biggest business in the world. So yeah, so I would say like when I started Figure, I basically also had a kind of a step up in net worth and was able to fund the business materially kind of from the get go. So like right out of the gate, self funded the company. I think we hit like $1 million a month in burn, like month 5. And we were just like hell bent on like, let's just go build a humanoid. Let's get out there. Like let's make as much progress. We were walking a humanoid robot that we basically majority designed from scratch within like under 12 months from when we incorporated the company. So I would say it happened. I would say it happened really fast. And now we're in an environment where it looks like the humanoid robot will be the ultimate deployment vector for AGI. Like if you want things done in the physical world, it's like you're gonna have a hard time putting on a vacuum cleaner or anything else. Like you really want to, like the AI on board a very high dimensional robot to be able to do work. So we're seeing kind of this emergence of like robotics and AI, which is like I would say like it's there's certainly a lot of capital I would say coming into the market in this area because of these trends. And I think beyond all that though, like the robots are working. Like we are seeing the robots starting to do like really useful like work. We can run the robot, for in a lot of cases we're running the robots almost all day, and they're performing like useful work. So like you're starting to see signs that like this is actually going to happen now, and we're in the right decade, which is helpful as well.
But I think touching on the kind of transition from software to hardware, I'm always kind of curious to hear, as you made that transition, what challenges kind of take place in hardware that you weren't seeing in software? How do you address them? But also, from an adoption perspective, my intuition is that it's a lot harder to get folks to adopt hardware than it is software, especially with so much software coming out. People can go online, try it out if they like it, maybe become a user. If not, go on to the next thing. Like, how do you envision, and it's kind of a two-part question. So again, first and foremost, challenges in general, and then kind of the challenges around adoption as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot to talk about here. I think a few things, maybe I'll just like a few observations for me is there's on the hardware like side for an entrepreneur, it looks a lot like software, like in the limit with 10x, 100x longer timescales. So like like a lot of some upfront planning, and then saying like, okay, we want to go test this, we want to go do it. Like you go design it, you go build it, you then buy things in the supply chain, you bring it in, you early test it, you manufacture it, put it all together, and you see if it works. And like in some cases that took a year that you could do in like maybe days or weeks in software. But there's a lot of this, like I would say, a lot of similarities on. We have this underlying like scientific method hypothesis that we want to go test. It's backed by some like real early say customer feedback or some type of other like input, and we're going off and building something. We're going to try to see if it ultimately works, and then continue to iterate from there. The problems now is like you have like very long timelines. You have like very expensive things. You have to actually buy hardware now instead of just like just writing software, and then hardware is just like tough to get out the door. It's like hard to make things actually work once you do it, because you have to make a lot more of that stuff. Or digitally, you can just infinitely scale software in SaaS or whatever to go scale it. So it's just like it's like software. It's like a death gauntlet for software entrepreneurs. it's like software entrepreneurship on steroids. It's just like really quite difficult. So, but but I think it's like really rewarding. And I think the one thing I had in my software days is I never felt like really rewarded, like in software. I couldn't like feel it and touch it. And when we would show the product, you have to like log into like some browser and go show it. Just like it's something that like there's something really special about like physically building things in the world. And we spend so much time in a physical world. Like there's so in some way it doesn't get a lot of attention versus software like last 10 or 20 years. So I grew up around a lot of hardware, grew up on a farm, grew up building things. And I just really like after kind of my software days, I was like, I really wanted to get into hardware, like basically full steam. And that kind of led me into Archer and now Figure and Cover and the rest of my companies. And it's been great. Adoption's harder. Everything's just harder. So it's like, I would say like software, but like just like turn the knob on like the challenges and difficulty to 11 and then you're here. But the one thing I will say though, is it like, I'm always like pretty anxious internally about making sure I'm designing for the right thing and heading in the right direction. And in some ways, like software, you really quite don't know, because like you're building something, you're getting it out, you're getting early like feedback and testing for users. You're not unclear if this is going to work. In hardware, if we have this conviction, like okay, we should be flying aircraft instead of driving, like that's for sure going to work, and we can save people time. Or like say building tunnels underground. If you can like build that and make it cheap, that'll for sure work if you can engineer the right product. And the engineering is like relatively straightforward in terms of like making sure that like this is possible stuff to go do. It's like good first order engineering. We have to it needs to be done on a clean sheet, but it's physics and there's rules around this. So in some way for me, it's been like the least stressful years of my career as an entrepreneur, like building hardware, because we have a rule book with physics that we can basically, basically axiomatically attribute back to. And I actually really enjoy it. Like I just, my life as a hardware entrepreneur has been both challenging and enjoyable. And,